2023 or 2023, and I did my presentation for the museum at the Apple Blossom Festival. So we had a Riverside Church, and then they asked me to join the board. But you know, what is so good about being associated with the museum is all the different activities that have come up, like all these things. There's so much entertainment. And so I want to just reach out and ask you all to make sure you want to become members. Do become members, because then it's easy. Yes, yes, yes. Without any more, we'll just let Ron tell us his story, because I'm boring, so.
Thanks, Beck. I want to acknowledge Tony Dosh's here. Great. I was just talking about some of the water legends around here. So these are some of the guys that were here on the water in the early days. And Peg, definitely one of these people. It's been an amazing experience. I showed up here. Well, I think I was about 19, and all the way through I've met just amazing people, and it's been great. So I'm gonna just go right in and play some video that I produced. I was 22 when I made this video, which seems amazing to me now when I see people. But somehow we pulled it off. But I'll go into details on how that even came about to make the video. And
Sex is addicting, but this is the most addictive.
Sometimes you're pushing the limits, and you know that there's the only way you're going to improve, and you go too far sometimes. And you have to be aware that you're gonna, that's a possibility on the wipe out.
The windsurfer is a craft upon which man may attain a truly harmonious relationship with the natural forces he seeks to harness. However, the windsurfer sometimes steps out of bounds, goes beyond his limits. Nature responds with a quick slap in the face. Or a slam on the back.
Panic of a save your ass type of thing when you don't want to eat it big time. So you get out, you bail out. It's kind of a rush too to do that. Let it go sometimes. It's a bit of a crowd pleaser sometimes, but mostly it's more safety. You've gone over the top and you're no longer in control coming out of a jump, and you know that you're going to eat it if you try and land. So sometimes it's better just to step away in midair. There's nothing like it. So free ride. It sucks. Getting slammed hard happens a lot if you're going for it, but you get slammed hard, you kind of lay there for a few seconds and you figure out that you are, and you pick it back up and go for it again.
It's fun. I come up laughing. One of those cool things about sailing is getting slammed, whether it's you or somebody else. You just laugh. It's hard to get hurt, so you just laugh.
And I'm not even too sure what I get. It all happens so fast. especially in the gorge where you're dealing with so much wind velocity. But it makes you realize how powerful Mother Nature is and how small you really are. Instant blur. And then it's just, oh God, am I alright?
You know, there's some of the gladiator syndrome.
Getting slammed is kind of refreshing.
I always feel like I'm a rag doll, just kind of getting flopped down into the water. Last week, as a matter of fact, I separated the cartilage in the tip of my nose because I got slammed down so hard. Hit in the face with my mask.
For some reason, I get lost a lot. I think it's because of my attitude. Like, what can water possibly do to your body as I limp away? That's the fun thing about the sport. You can get slammed big time, you can break your harness up in half, but you can still hang on and get another ride.
That's a good slam. Starts about 4 in the morning when you get woke up by all the doors in your house being blown open and the windows slamming shut. And you just want to know when it's going to get light so you can get out there.
I feel physically sick as I'm driving to the beach quite often. Sort of the panic that I'm missing it, or I'm gonna rig the wrong sail, and by the time I get up there, it's gonna die.
Panic. You're missing it. It's been blowing all night and you didn't wake up soon enough.
I can't wait to get on the river. I feel like I'm gonna have a heart attack until I get on the river.
Sometimes you get really big waves here in the gorge. I've been twisted around pretty good, hitting the water pretty fast, going down the face of the swell here in the gorge. Swells are big, that's what I like.
Yeah, right. The gorge is getting famous for its swells, which reach 6, even 8 feet high. People who see a 30-knot day for the first time stare out at the river in disbelief over the huge swells.
So that is the video. Okay, so I'm gonna go back in time a little bit and how I got here. So that's me as a kid, and I was born in Seattle, and we lived on this little lake in Poughkeepsie. And so I got water experience right away, and I turns out I loved it. We moved to Sun River, Oregon when I was little, and I loved snow, and I had some kind of interesting experiences as a kid. They shot a John Wayne movie, and my dad helped with scouting the location, so they invited us to the set. I got into photography at a pretty young age, like maybe 13 or something, and we had eventually moved to Montana, and this is Eagle Knievel. Came to this little town I lived in. Yeah, it's Eagle Knievel came to our little town, and this guy was named Reckless Rex, and he was gonna be the first one to do a backflip on a motorcycle. And I just thought it was funny how pretty much through the rest of my life I just would run into all these new things, new sports, all kinds of amazing people. Here's his attempt. he does it over water.
Oh, that's
But yeah, he never really perfected it. So in high school I did photography, I was in journalism, it was school paper. But I was really into skiing, that became my big thing, I was into skiing. So for example, that's me, and I have my brother take the picture, but I kind of lined up what I wanted to do. Okay, you stand here, let's do that, he's my little brother. But one day when I was at Mount Bachelor, before they put the chair at the top, I started asking people if they knew who my favorite photographer was Mike Epstein. He had a lot of magazine covers, and I kind of knew who was who, and I was like 15, something like that. And it turns out he was up there, and so this is him, a different day, but I approached him and I said, hey, I've got some ideas for some shots, and he said, oh, okay, I was some kid that came up to him, and then a little while later he said, what do you have in mind? And so this was our first shot we did together. We got the cover of this little magazine, and it was pretty fun. So I just said, here's my idea for shot, and it was fun because as a photographer I could explain to him my ideas. Later we did, this is up on Mount Hood, we went hiking around, looking at some interesting terrain, took some pictures. That became ski magazine cover, which was pretty fun. And then we went to, that's at Snowbird, and so we did some traveling. I got to go to Jackson Hole, and while I was there, I ended up doing this stuff where I jumped out of the tram. And funny enough, we met the Warren Miller crew there, and this is me jumping out for the intro of the movie. So I'm in the back. I landed, the other guy did it. Oh! So that's a classic Warren Miller. Okay, here's where it gets started. I'm just going to start introducing my coming to the gorge. So, this is Peter Menifee. I went to middle school with him in Bend, and I rolled into Hood River, wanting to windsurf. I just got a board. I traded someone for a board. I didn't know how to windsurf, but I had this 8.3 glass board. I didn't know anything about it. I pulled up in front of Betty's, and I looked over, and there's Baldwin Skiing Sport. I just walked in there, and boom, there's my friend Peter, who's working there. And I think this was 84. And hadn't seen him forever. And in middle school, he was little, and now he's like 6 feet. And I'm like, oh, you're regular size now. So the first thing I said, which is pretty classy. So that's Peter. He's in Hardersville as well. We bought a house together on Sherman, and that's where we would like edit the videos and work on the videos for a while. And then that's me as just like a kooky kid learning to windsurf with the life jacket and get ready. And I did the classic thing after my first summer here. I went to Hawaii, and we did some surfing, windsurfing. This is coming back to the gorge, so this is a Pray for Wind party, and they're sacrificing board. This is at Wind Ridge. And then this is just one of the classic gorge parties. Some of you here might remember these, the wind that Rushman. So here's where it gets interesting. So there's this, well, first of all, there's this ad in the Northwest Sailboat magazine. And so I'm 19, I see this ad, and I'm like, oh, that sounds kind of neat. So I come to Underhill, and I'm like, I went in there to check it out, and there's nothing going on in there. And so Peter said, oh, I need to go see Linda Jensen about something. I'm like, okay, I don't know. She goes, well, she was doing marketing for Pieters. She goes, hey, do you guys want to shoot the videos for Pieters? And she handed us a camera. And we're like, sure. So we're just like shooting our friends, just kind of playing around. We didn't have any plan, but as it progressed that summer, I realized people were into it. Like, they were showing up. So for the next summer, I contacted a guy that I had some filming experience. It's the only one I could think of that actually had a camera, and it's this guy Bill Taylor, and I knew him from growing up, living in Sun River. He would come up to ski, and so I used to go skiing with him and his cousins and family. So this is a little office we had on Oak Street, 202 Oak Street. And this is, as we grew, by like the next couple of summer, we ended up hiring another person to help us because we started getting hired to do other videos, and then we were continuing to put out the show. And then at the end of that year, we had all that footage from, we filmed anytime it was windy, and then on Friday, we just edited a new show. And then we'd take the best clips from any week, and it would kind of keep surviving until something better came out. But a fun thing happened. There was this guy, Tom Gruder, came to town, and he invented this thing called the wind weapon.
I say maximum efficiency when I look at seagull. So we're about at 0.0001% of the seagull right now.
Tom Magruder has maintained a truly unique vision in his quest for flight. His invention, the wind weapon, takes sailboarding into the realm of a new sport, sail soaring.
Basically, the pivoting wing combines hang gliding and sailboarding into one sport. I was a sailboarder, we call ourselves windsurfers, I wish that was still the name. But it always wanted to hang glide, and figured it too dangerous. I hit a slump in life and went ahead and learned it anyway.
So that's Tom. So he, interestingly enough, there's a new sport here called winging, and he's effectively the pioneer of it. I mean, there's people that have been doing it on snow in different capacities for maybe many years before, but definitely on the water he was doing it, but it didn't ever catch on until Tony came along. He helped pioneer it. But he wanted a video done, and so he ended up helping fund our business. We probably wouldn't have been able to buy the equipment we needed if it wasn't for Tom Gruder. So it was kind of fun because it was fun to watch him, and we filmed him, and it kind of helped us with our business. Now I just wanted to show one of the characters here.
I love catching total G's where it feels like your shin's gonna slam into your knees. Just cranking the tightest turns I can get. I like doing duck drives, I guess, so I usually do it. Because I learned how to do those right away. I could do duck drives better than I could do regular drives, so I just always do those. And it's the best way to turn.
Yeah, he's still around. He's got 3 kids. One of his kids is friends with mine. So one of the many characters we had here in the gorge was really fun. And a theme of back to the wind weapon. There's been a lot of progression in sports here and innovation. So it's been really cool. But so here this is Billy. He was my partner in the video business. And we did a fun thing in the video. This is Jake Lombard, the guy with the beard. He did stunts for James Bond. And he was here as a windsurfer. He loved windsurfing. And another small coincidence, in Montana, this little town I lived in, he was dating a woman that lived there. And so in high school, I met him, and I was just like, we were following him around, skiing on the mountain, because he did all these crazy stunts. So when I see him in the gorge, and I'm now a big kid, we connect and we end up filming him and this is a scene from our.
When during an aerial photography session, I was joined by a red and white steersman, I knew something was going to happen. When I saw Jake Lombard, stunt double for James Bond, climb out on the wing, I had no trouble deciding what to do. Keep the camera rolling. Later, Jake told me that ground control had issued a hasty warning for wind. As an avid sailor, Jake had no choice but to make his descent to the river as quickly as possible.
So, yeah, it was pretty fun. Just the connections over the time and just how the things we included in Harbin's Blower is pretty amazing. Back to the wind weapon, I took it skiing, and it really extends your flight. I ended up actually getting a giant bump on my head because you can't really stop. I should have let go, but every time you go to turn, it lifts your skis off, so now you're not making contact with snow. And so I just decided I'd just pitch it down, but then I ran into it. Yeah, speaking of living and learning, this was a result of, I decided I'd ski racing, and I hadn't ski raced in a long time. And this was just in Meadows. unfortunate incident. But then it was back to windsurfing as normal, and taking note of the cool shorts there. And, right, those were the 80s. And I used to tease the people that made custom sails because I would say, all your sails look the same. So they let me design my own sail. We made more windsurfing videos. We actually made several. This was another one that was really fun. And then over time, I started making snowboard movies. We made instructional windsurfing videos. And as this was going on, we got to travel a lot. And over time, I got to go all over the world. Here's a little clip of the snowboard movie. And this was fun because this was like the beginning of snowboarding. The very beginning, that's the half pipes that you see in this look like a joke compared to what they do today. They're hand done. That was in Jackson Hole, so I got to go back there. And a lot of the half pipe trainings are not good, so it's pretty convenient to film it there. That's Pat Corelli, another Hood River guy that was a pretty good windsurfer too, and motorcycle rider. There he is again, that's Pat. That's the area where I did my job. That was Sean Palmer, who is kind of one of the legends in snowboarding. Yeah, she was okay. But we hiked up the backcountry in the Tahoe area, Donner Pass. So then I started traveling more. I got hired to film World Cup snowboard competitions all over. That was in Japan. I posed with those snowmobiles because my grandparents had similar snowmobiles, and I just thought it was funny. I got to shoot, I worked on a project with the band Heart. So I started getting into more, commercial venues. And this is kind of a fun story too. Back in Montana, I was ski racing, and I ski raced with this guy. His name's Tommy Moe. He ended up getting a gold medal. I got hired to go to Norway when he got his gold medal to shoot a commercial with him, which was really fun. I did all kinds of commercials and different things. I'm jumping off this cliff with the Waterhouse 16mm camera filming this kayaker. And okay, now I'm going to jump back into the gorge and some of the innovative people that we all know here.
Packaging them up with skis and bars, and one at a time by me and Randy and Trace, my wife. When she'd get off work, she'd come in and tie knots.
Sweet. So that's just a quick clip, and hopefully you got to see him speak. But Corey effectively invented kiteboarding. There was iterations along the way, but the fun thing for me is that he taught me how to kite originally. And so I only did the real bar for a little bit, and then I went to Hawaii and learned on with the inflatable kites. But it was pretty cool. And and of course, because I'm always interested in like the new things and what's coming out, I would always go and talk to him. And I'm pretty sure he was in high school when he first came here. But we do a race from the Etoka River, and then we do one from Cascade Locks. Were the blowouts from Cascade Locks back then? Yeah. So he showed up and he forgot a harness. And I just had an extra harness. That was pretty fun. My first introduction to him, I offered him a harness and helped him out. So right after that, kiteboarding started blowing up, and this is one of the kiteboard videos I made. And at the time I lived in White Salmon, and this is pretty much the view from where I lived. This is a kiteboarding video. Pretty sure that's Chris Gilbert who was here, or or in the gorge. And then all along the way, I was always into trying all these sports and doing this, but that could lead to more injuries. In Hawaii, right when the 4-line kites came out, well, I was learning to kite early, so I had to teach a lot of people, and I'd always say, if it's really gusty, don't go out. It's not worth it. Well, it was my last day in Hawaii. It was really gusty, but with 4-line kites, you could do power. But I decided to do a jump where I'm not using that system, and a gust hit me. I found the wind graph, and it went from 18 to 45, and I just shot up above the trees, the height of the trees there, which are pretty high on Kite Beach. I came down, I had wakeboard boots on, and my heel shattered. The calcaneus, it's the biggest solid bone in your body. It was like, the doctor said it was a bag of bones. So that was unfortunate. The knee thing was almost worse, because I was so addicted to windsurfing and when I broke my knee, and it was in March, so I missed a season. Good news is, in the gorge, you can get yourself back in shape, go biking. And then I had a son, and I'm just showing this because it's pretty fun. This is obviously, check out his hand. I like to call it a shaka, but it turns out he's a different guitar player. He's sending signals. In that era, right before my son Rocket was born, I stumbled into this. Now, this never was as big as windsurfing or kiting or anything, but just paddling on the river turned out to be, I really enjoyed it. I windsurfed for 15 years, I kiteboarded for 15 years, and I just ready to do something else. And it's fun, you're paddling, it takes, you get exercise, you have to work to ride the swells. And then I realized, the river was just more multi-dimensional, because when I first just windsurfed, it was all about just getting jumps. And then when you're out there, and if there's no wind in your paddling, you realize, oh, it's really pretty out here. Like, you don't think about it when you're just out there just to jump. But when you start paddling, you start noticing the water differently, you notice things. And that just continued as I, you go from windsurfing to kiting. Well, if it's gusty, it's way more dangerous when you're kiting. So you have to really pay attention. And then, like in the Harvard's of Blowing, that clip of me, I like big swells. So there's me out in the river, chasing the big swells. And in Hawaii, I did, when I turned 50, I paddled from Maui to Molokai on an 18-foot board with some friends. And then I would take my son out and play in the ocean. He got to be around boards when he was little, which was pretty fun. And then the stand-up paddle thing did start to get some traction in it. We had great events here, and Fiona is known as one of the champions. And there's McCray actually up there too. So I got into racing, that was really fun, and my son would hang out with us. Okay, so then, in between all the action sports stuff I was doing, and I would take jobs. So I got to go to Jordan, to the Middle East. Wow. And we shot for Columbia Sportswear, and I got to this is Jeff Greenwood, Chris Austin, they live in Hood River, White Sand. And I got to hire the crew, so it was fun to bring some friends with me. It was an amazing trip. As me, I'm filming on camera, which is pretty fun. And we worked with the tourism board there, and it's amazing. There's so many locations that are just so incredible. The people that were in this group, they called it like Utah on steroids, because Utah is amazing. What's it called? Zion. Right. Raiders of the Lost Ark was filmed in some of these areas, and it just keeps going. There's the Red Sea, the Dead Sea. There's just so many cool things to see. The tourism people, we got along with them great. They invited us back. We ended up flying back to Jordan a few months later, and because the Pope came to visit, and we got to film the Pope meeting the King of Jordan. It was really cool. Okay, so now I'm coming back to bring this full circle and the innovations and how we include them in the gorge. So this was, I want to say 2013. I think a lot of the world was entranced with this. I was anyway, just watching these racing and these foils. It was amazing. And then kiters came along, and I filmed this a local kid there when he was 15. He later was going strong. He's a slingshot, and he's innovated the sport. It's amazing what he does now. But this is just something I happened to film when he just was getting going. And integrating the foils with kites. Well, eventually Kyle Lenny comes along.
First time I stepped on the foil, did it downwinder, I instantly saw a glimpse of the future. This is the future. This is all I want to do. I don't think I've ever been this excited to go stand a race. You know, to do a 10-mile run, to me it wasn't long enough because I was riding so many glides. I was going 300 yards this way, 300 yards that way. It was more fun than it was work, and I think for me that's always something I've chased in any sport.
So once I saw the America's Cup, blown away by the foils, I learned to kite foil. And I was already doing a lot of stand-up paddling. I'm like, okay, I want to do that. So now he's the smaller guy, and his foil, well, he can ride, he can do anything he wants, but he's riding a foil that's too small for me. At least I took a whole nother year before I could even do it, and I was so excited to do it. Some other guys from Hawaii showed up, and they showed that they could do it in the gorge. And when I first saw this image, I was like, yes, we're gonna be able to do it. Because I didn't even know it was even possible. I had no idea. Turns out it is. So then, by 2016, I was out there, and there was no equipment to get. Like, I had LP made a giant foil just as an experiment. He loaned it to me, and a friend of mine took the surfboard and put tracks in and donated it to the project. And I went out there. It's my first time up on foil, and I had no idea where to stand, nothing about it. So there was a few years where just me and a couple of people out there just like trying to get it to work. And that's some of the early days of trying to get it to work. But then I got the bug for it. I was hooked. And in the fall, the wind died. So what do? I started just going off the dock with a little board and a paddle just to be on the foil. I just wanted to be on the foil. I'm going to show you some footage. This is not my footage, but I was really impressed by how these guys put this together. And so you can really see what foiling looks like in the gorge on stand-up boards.
It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. I'm feeling good. Facing the sea, how I feel. Running free, you know how I feel.
So it's pretty fun because, you know, the wind's been here, the river's here, the swells are here, and we just keep finding new ways to play in the water. This is my son. He did the gorge paddle challenge this year. He's 14, and of course I want him to foil. He's willing to do it, but he's not hooked yet. But I got him to go out and practice a little bit on the flat water, which is it's been fun. But that's the same. That's a fun photo. Chris Anderson is in the picture, and he asked me if I was going to talk about him, and I wasn't going to, but since he asked me, I thought I should put it on there. Now this is a kid that's become lives in Hood River now, and what's fun about this is when I first saw the wings and the foils together, the wing and the foil look like a novelty, like I was in the paddle. But leave it up to the kids to make it into something. Check out what they're doing now with foils and their wings. This kid lives here and he's been the world champion for 20 minutes. It's pretty crazy. This is basically, I'm wrapping up my, this is pretty much the end. I just got that shot the other day and I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then, just another shot down the gorge. But, it's been fun and it's amazing because like I showed up here, I didn't have any career plans necessarily. I love skiing and I love windsurfing and it just turned into a job that took me around the world. So, and just the whole evolution's been really fun. I've always tried to participate in all of it. Questions, try to catch Tony before he leaves on gear.
Well, I have a question for you.
Excuse
Did
me?
you archive the videos that you did in any way, shape, or form that you can access them?
Well,
Obviously you have the one.
yeah, Art of the
But-
Blowing
Yeah.
is on YouTube in its entirety, and I don't know who did it, but they actually up-res it, and that's the version I used for this. I just grabbed one off YouTube because I just had VHS of that. I still have some VHS in storage of some of that. There's some really fun stuff that like, I couldn't really find, but we made commercials for local businesses that we played in. First it was just in Pietro's, but then most of the other restaurants played them too. So pretty soon we would have commercials and with locals and just some of them were pretty funny. And we had like Mike's Ice Cream, we did commercials for them and their son Josh was little back then. He said something about how he scoops all day and sails all day and scoops all night. Anyway, there were some fun commercials we did back then. But yeah, the bulk of it is, Heart Was Blowing is kind of the best thing I have for archive as far as it's out there. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about some of the equipment and how it evolved across your career?
Yeah, of course. Well, right, I learned a lot about windsurfing by buying the wrong board. To learn, it turns out, well, basically what we ride here is, I guess I call them sinkers, but just, they're small boards, because once you have enough wind, you don't need a big board to support your weight. So, specific to equipment in the boards, we had smaller boards. And I guess as they evolved, they were always trying different fins, hollow boards, hollow boards. There were people playing with like flexi tails. I don't think the windsurf stuff changed. The boards, you can see the Hypertech up there. I had that board when I was racing. Not that, probably not that shape. That wasn't the race shape. But yeah, the board, basically that technology for windsurfing kind of made its way into all the next sports. Like when the stand-up paddling, the kiting came along, you didn't need the big boards anymore, pretty small boards, but still, there's a lot of similar techniques in manufacturing. And then when the stand-up paddle came along, in the very beginning, we just would ride I rode old windsurfers because they were around, giant plastic boards, just would paddle those around. And then once there was a market for it, then the companies showed up and started making the technology they use for the windsurfing gear.
Yeah, so on that same continuum you're discussing, Hypertech was omnipresent in all the press and all the videos and stuff. And at one point there was a picture of Doherty walking through the hatch with 4 Hypertechs under his arm. It was like, oh my God, there's $10,000 worth of stuff. And that was the board, and then it just gone. It was super thick in volume. It launched whether we wanted to or not.
They were amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was into racing for a while, and I used it. They were great. Oh yeah, Rex.
I'm not for Rex, it doesn't flip. But he used to call me. Is this whole presentation, is it available like on YouTube or something like that?
It's being recorded actually, so, yeah.
Oh, this is phenomenal.
Oh, thank
You did
you.
a great job.
I appreciate that.
Are you self-taught completely as a photographer and a videographer?
Yeah. Well, I took some classes in high school, I did take some classes in college too. But, yeah, I mean, at 13 I had a dark room. I was just one of those kids that was into it. Yeah.
Sorry, I have a question. I've been raising it a few times.
Yeah.
When did you switch over to digital filmmaking from analog filmmaking, I guess?
It was, I would say around 2007 or 2008.
Oh, really? So all that stuff you did before was cutting
Well,
film?
so sorry, when you say digital, we shot videotape. I shot 16 millimeter and videotape, and then when digital, when it was really on a card, not a tape. Because there was a time when it was digital to tape.
Yeah,
But when it
digital
was
video.
just on a card, I think that was closer to 2008.
I see. So when we see the computer screens in the presentation here, what were you doing on those screens?
So we would have the tape that you shot that day. You put it in the player. So you got this thing called the player, then the recorder. So you have two tape decks, and you have a controller in between. So you would say, start playing this shot here and end it there, and then have this machine start recording that point.
On new tape.
Onto a new tape.
I see. Okay.
So you do your in and out, in and out, in and out.
Right. You still do
And that's
the
how, yeah, that was linear.
So, Rod, you might explain, what kind of equipment were you actually using at that time? What was it called?
Yeah, so in the very beginning, it was called 3/4 inch video. And it was, so you remember the news guys that would have like a thing around their shoulder and there's a deck. And it's got a cord to camera up here. So we had 3/4 inch video.
So I saw you using, better quality cameras later on.
Well, yeah, I think Betacams weren't even really that available yet. So eventually it went to a smaller tape and better quality, like the news people, but it was still like the news, that was the standard news at that time, in 87. Yeah.
I got two questions. Are you still making movies? And then the second question, did you ever get to meet Warren Miller?
I did, actually, yeah. When I was in that movie, I went to a showing in Seattle and he was there. And so I got to go to meet him. Yeah, it was cool.
And you're still making movies now?
But so yeah, I do, that's my career. I make videos. And like this summer I was in Chicago and Milwaukee shooting, and I've got to shoot in Seattle or Redmond area coming up. So yeah, I travel and shoot. Sometimes I get to work here or and the Middle East. Yeah, I mean I still do all that kind of work still. Yeah.
How do you get those close-up action shots? Where are you in the process?
Well, mostly out of a long lens. The shots that are really interesting that we went out to Marion Bridge and we shot straight down. So that was our fake helicopter. And it made it really smooth.
Right in the back. So most of your pictures are from the shore or boat, but do you get in the water?
Yeah. I don't remember seeing any shots where I was in the water on this, but yeah, I actually did I just did a video the week before last for someone that was going through the process of learning to kite, and there's a host of the show. And so, but it's funny because I took my iPhone, put on my wetsuit, rode on the back of a jet ski, and then stood in the sand above Wells Island, like, waist knee to waist deep, and I filmed everything going on my phone. Because, I don't want to risk taking my nice cameras, but it's not, I could be right there with them. Other times I have Waterhouse cameras and I would swim out. I also, nowadays we have GoPros so we can follow each other around. That's what a lot of people do there.
So I see, like Jaws, for example, down in California, there are swimmers out there with cameras, it seems really dangerous.
Yeah.
People, you know, doing, going for the big shot.
Oh yeah, no, I did get a concussion, and I was filming in the water for wakeboarding and for O'Brien, and we had one of the cool shots. Well, one of the shots we pioneered was just sitting in an inner tube and having them jump over us. But then we would do a thing where the athlete would jump all the way over the wake and then over us on the other side. So I'm sitting in the water and the boat's coming right by me. Well, the guy landed on me, and I put my camera up like this, and it's a steel housed, it's like a real underwater housing, so it's heavy, and it's neutral balance, so it won't sink, but it's heavy. I did this, I had a helmet on, but I still got a concussion, and I didn't know where I was. Like, they were like, where are you? I'm like, do you know where you are? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, where? I don't know. Like, I remember all that part. It was great.
That was here in Columbia?
That was the Roundview Dam. So
I remember when that happened.
Yeah, I was all bandaged up. I ended up with 2 head injuries. Another time we were in a boat, we hit a sandbar, and I was in the back of the boat, flew to the front, hit the mirror, and got 12 stitches. Good stuff.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I would like to say a couple things about Rod and Mike and Bill. They were out at the hatchery. Maybe it wasn't dangerous, but it took a lot of endurance to stand out on the point in those windy days. And they'd be out there every day for months and months. And I guess you had to be young to do that. But the other thing that's interesting about Rod's movies, especially Hard Winds of Blowin', that was the first one that came out. And I used to run wind dance with my wife Lorraine here, and for many years. And we played those videos all the time. But we would, in the early days of windsurfing in the gorge, people would come to the gorge and they're like, "Oh yeah, I've worn out this video because they've played Hard Winds of Blowing so much." So actually, I credit Rod with the growth, the amazing growth of windsurfing in the gorge, because all these people in the Midwest or on the East Coast, they're freezing in the winter and they're playing these videos and over and over. And I talk to people even now that are like, "Oh yeah, I watch Hard Winds of Blowing," and people actually recognize some of these interviews. They're like, "Oh yeah, you were in Hard Winds of Blowing." Like, you actually recognize me. Anyway, I do credit Rod with a lot, and Mike and Bill for bringing a lot of people to the gorge.
Besides Bill Miller, there was another ski filmmaker.
Greg Stone.
There was one more, Blake. His name is Blake. Blake Berry or Barrymore. Thank you.
Hey.
I was a fan of his movies. I was in Baja and I met him, and he goes, someone told me what I do, and he's like, "Pete Duck Jive." Or Duck Jive Pete. It was so funny because he knew the characters in the movie. And I thought, wow, how cool, this guy makes movies, knows love. Anyway, well, thanks again for coming, everyone.